The wealthy man stood still, his gaze fixed on a waitress and a small boy who bore an uncanny resemblance to him. It was the very same woman he had left behind a decade earlier. Before we embark on this narrative journey, please share a comment below and let us know your location as you tune in. Delight in it. The morning hustle at Charlie's Diner was in full swing. Emily Parker navigated the space between tables with a certain awkwardness, her auburn hair secured in a tidy ponytail that swayed with every movement. For 7 years, she had dedicated herself to this humble Kansas City establishment, a place where the community gathered for substantial breakfasts and warm exchanges. It may not have been glamorous, but it covered the expenses and provided the flexibility needed for a single mother raising her 10-year-old son. "Order up for table 6, Marge called from behind the counter. Emily deftly maneuvered through the labyrinth of tables, balancing a tray laden with pancakes and coffee. Table 6 sat by the window, bathed in the gentle morning light that streamed through the blinds. As she drew near, she cast her eyes upon the ticket to verify the order. "Here are your blueberry pancakes and—" The words faltered in her throat as she gazed upward. There he stood. A decade has passed, yet the essence remains clear. The jawline remains chiseled, yet it has gained a sharper definition. The same piercing hazel eyes, now accented by delicate lines. His dark hair was trimmed, sleek, yet still held those familiar rebellious waves she once loved to touch. Ethan Miller. The man who had vowed to give her everything at 20, then disappeared without a word. The coffee pot in Emily's grasp quivered, warm liquid teetering perilously near the edge. She placed the pancakes with a calculated precision, struggling to maintain a composed facade while a tempest of emotions swirled within her. "Is there anything more you would like, sir?" She succeeded in inquiring, the term feeling unfamiliar on her lips as she spoke to him. Ethan glanced away from his phone, momentarily sidetracked. "Only the verification when—" His voice halted suddenly as understanding washed over him. "Is that you, Emily?" She nodded rigidly, words eluding her as a wave of memories surged forth. Starlit strolls by the water's edge, soft-spoken vows, dreams of a tomorrow that remained unfulfilled. He was taken aback for a moment, his polished businessman facade slipping as he remarked, "I didn't realize you were in Kansas City. Has it really been a decade? 9 years? 8 months, Emily interjected before she could hold her tongue. "Is there anything more I can assist you with?" Just as Ethan was about to reply, the bell above the diner door rang out. Emily's heart raced as her son Lucas dashed in, his backpack jostling against his slender shoulders. "Mom, Mrs. Henderson dismissed us early since the science lab experienced a flood." Lucas shouted, dashing toward the counter where he typically lingered for her shift to conclude. Emily observed in disbelief as Ethan's eyes moved to Lucas, his face changing from astonishment to utter shock. She recognized precisely what he was observing, the identical hazel eyes mirroring his own, the familiar dimple in the left cheek that appeared when he smiled, the same resolute line of the jaw. Ethan rose suddenly, his coffee left untouched, his gaze fixed on the boy. "Emily," he murmured, his voice almost lost amidst the bustling noise of the diner. "That young lad." "I have other tables," Emily interrupted, swiftly turning away. "Marge will deliver your check." As she slipped away to the kitchen, her heart racing within her chest, Emily sensed Ethan's gaze lingering on her. The memories she had meticulously stored away surged back with an unsettling force. From the service window, she observed Ethan fixated on Lucas, who was engrossed in a comic book at the counter, blissfully oblivious to the man whose blood coursed through him. Ethan retrieved his phone, captured a subtle image of the boy, and then placed a generous amount of money on the table, exceeding the cost of his meal. As he stepped outside, his gaze locked with Emily's through the kitchen window, an unspoken vow that this unforeseen encounter was just the beginning. Emily rested against the cool metal, her legs feeling unexpectedly unsteady beneath her. A decade of meticulously built stability poised on the brink of collapse in just one morning. Lucas casually requested a chocolate milk from Marge, completely oblivious to the fact that everything he knew had just been turned upside down. Because Ethan Miller, a tech innovator and millionaire, the man she had simplified to just your father in Lucas's bedtime inquiries, had returned. And observing the resolve in his gaze as he departed, it was clear he had no intention of leaving this time. Once the lunch rush began to wane, Emily found her hands trembling uncontrollably. She repeatedly let silverware slip from her grasp, drawing worried looks from Marge. "You look like you've seen a ghost, dear," Marge remarked, as she topped off the salt shakers. A specter. That was precisely who Ethan Miller was. A specter from her history unexpectedly took form. Emily looked over at the window where Lucas was immersed in his homework, his brow knitted in focus, reminiscent of the way Ethan used to concentrate during their study sessions. "I'm fine," Emily said, though it wasn't true. Feeling a bit worn out. While she cleaned the tables, long-buried memories surged forth, overwhelming her senses. She found herself 20 once more, a scholarship student at Kansas State, encountering Ethan in Economics 101. He requested to borrow her notes, but she later discovered that he had perfect grades and didn't actually need them. His family owned Miller Technologies, yet he never showcased his affluence, opting instead for an old Jeep and faded jeans, much like any other college student. That summer was enchanting. Picnics by Clinton Lake, late-night talks that meander through every topic imaginable, dreams of exploring the globe side by side. Ethan envisioned a future that transcended the confines of his family's business, focusing on humanitarian technology and sustainable energy solutions. "Under the vast expanse of stars," he confided, "you inspire me to improve, Em," as she nestled her head against his chest. "With you, I'm more than just a privileged individual drifting along." Regarding my surname. She had faith in him, faith in their bond. Then arrived the unexpected passing of his father in September. Ethan traveled to New York for the funeral, vowing to come back in a week. He never returned. His phone lay silent, her emails drifted into the void. Upon her arrival at the Miller estate just outside Kansas City, she was met by his mother, Vivian, whose icy politeness sent a chill through the air. Vivian, dressed elegantly in her designer morning attire, had informed her that Ethan had moved on. "He's assuming control of the company now. That summer fling with the scholarship girl was a delightful diversion, but surely you didn't believe it was anything substantial." A week later, Emily found out she was expecting. On her second trip to the Miller estate, her pregnancy evident and her desperation palpable, she found herself being escorted to the gate by security, with Vivian observing from the window. The concluding meeting led to Vivian presenting her with a significant check, contingent upon her departure from Kansas City and a promise to sever all ties with Ethan forever. Emily had ripped the check right in front of Vivian. Even at that time, she possessed her pride. "Mom, may I please have? Would you like a milkshake?" Lucas's voice pulled her back to the present moment. "I completed my math worksheet." Emily gently arranged his wild hair, reminiscent of Ethan's. "Absolutely, my friend. Allow me to take a look at that piece." As Lucas confidently showcased his finished homework, Emily's phone buzzed with a message from an unfamiliar number. "It's time for a conversation. I will arrive at Riverside Park at 7 o'clock. Kindly make your way here. Ethan." Her stomach twisted in knots. How had he managed to obtain her number so swiftly? On the other hand, with millions at your fingertips, tracking down a phone number was likely a trivial task. "Mother? How are you holding up?" Lucas inquired with his hazel eyes, while Ethan's gaze reflected worry. Emily managed to put on a smile. "Everything is just fine. Allow me to procure that delightful milkshake for you. Next, we should pay a visit to Mrs. Wilson's. She's observing you this evening. I have a task that requires my attention." As twilight enveloped Riverside Park, Emily walked anxiously beside the fountain. She had selected this location with purpose, open, bright, and distant from the hidden bench where, 10 years prior, Ethan had first confessed his love for her. As his imposing silhouette emerged along the path, Emily felt her heart betray her with an unexpected flutter. He donned relaxed attire now, jeans paired with a straightforward button-down, resembling more the college student she remembered than the polished professional from the diner. "You came," he said simply, pausing at a respectful distance. Emily folded her arms across her chest. "What is it that you want, Ethan?" His voice, though soft, carried a weight of intensity. "The young lad at the diner, Lucas, correct? He belongs to me, doesn't he?" Emily held his gaze with unwavering confidence. "Indeed, he is your son, but you relinquished any claim to him the moment you vanished a decade ago." Ethan's expression revealed no astonishment at the affirmation, merely a nuanced blend of feelings. Marvel. Remorse. Fury. "Why didn't you share this with me, Emily? All these years gone by?" Emily let out a harsh laugh. "I didn't mention it to you. I reached out to you numerous times. I composed letters. I arrived at your residence. Your mother was very explicit about your desire to distance yourself from me and our child." Disarray flickered across Ethan's expression. "What are you referring to? I have not received any calls or letters. Yet, you never visited the house. I will keep that in mind. I was turned away by your mother. Thrice." Emily's voice took on a steely edge, tinged with the echoes of past humiliation. "The most recent occasion she proposed a sum for me to vanish." Ethan's complexion drained in the dimming glow of the park. "My mother mentioned that you had departed from Kansas. That you returned to Oklahoma in pursuit of a more advantageous scholarship. I attempted to reach out to you, but it seems your number is no longer in service." After a decade, uncertainty began to infiltrate Emily's unwavering belief in the events that had transpired between them. "That's inconceivable," she murmured. "It wasn't until months later that I decided to change my number." They gazed at one another, the soft splashing of the fountains breaking the stillness around them as years of miscommunication started to unfold. The weight of their conversation lingered in the cool evening air. Emily's thoughts surged, grappling to align this fresh revelation with the story she had embraced for a decade. "I believe you," she said, her voice laced with caution. "I see that my efforts to reach out to you went unnoticed. The reality remains that you have a 10-year-old son who has never experienced the presence of his father." Ethan ran a hand through his hair, a gesture that stirred a familiar ache in Emily's heart, one she wished to forget. "I wish to meet him." He spoke with a steady voice, a blend of firmness and desperation. "Not as an outsider in a diner, but as his dad." Emily quickly shook her head in response. "Definitely not. Lucas is content and balanced. I won't disrupt his life just because you've recently found out about him. Do I not possess rights?" "He's my son as well," Ethan replied, a glimpse of the entitled young man she once recognized piercing through his calm facade. "Entitlements?" Emily's voice escalated even as she tried to maintain her composure. "Rights must be earned, Ethan. Where were you when he was battling pneumonia at 3 and I was struggling to pay the hospital bill? Where were you on his first day of kindergarten when he wondered why other kids had daddies and he did not?" Ethan winced at every inquiry yet stood firm. "That seems unjust. I was unaware of his existence." "Life can be quite unjust," Emily responded. The weight of years spent as a struggling single mother resonates in her voice. "At the age of 20, I discovered that lesson while facing pregnancy alone, as the man I cherished disappeared without a word." They remained in a heavy silence until Ethan broke it once more, his voice gentle. "What have you shared with him regarding me?" Emily let out a soft sigh, her frustration easing just a bit. "He was someone I cherished during my college years, but he wasn't prepared for the responsibilities of family life. I have never spoken ill of you to him, if that's what concerns you. I appreciate that, at the very least." Ethan approached with caution. "Emily, I understand I may not have the standing to request anything from you, but I implore you to allow me the opportunity to connect with my son and be involved in his life." Emily examined his features, seeking the authenticity she had once believed in without question. The park lights cast a glow on his features, revealing the signs of age and experience, yet it was still the familiar face that haunted her dreams more frequently than she was willing to acknowledge. "I require some time to reflect," she finally stated. "This situation extends beyond just the two of us. It's all about what is best for Lucas." Ethan nodded, clearly holding back from probing any deeper. "Take a look at my card. Every single one of my figures. Private mobile. Workspace. Residence. Reach out when you feel prepared to have another conversation." He paused for a moment, then said, "I'm staying in Kansas City. For however long it may require." Emily accepted the card, her eyes drawn to the embossed title of CEO that lay beneath his name. She noted softly that you had achieved your desire. Managing the family enterprise. A shadow swept across Ethan's face. "It didn't quite unfold as I envisioned. The passing of my father transformed everything." He hesitated, visibly considering his forthcoming words. "After the funeral, I returned for you, Emily. Yet, my mother insisted you had vanished." Emily's grip on his business card grew firmer. "I stayed until Lucas was nearly 1. Your mother deceived us both." An understanding dawned upon them. A decade consumed by trickery and betrayal. As Emily began to walk away, Ethan's voice broke through the silence, calling out to her. "He possesses my gaze. And that subtle furrow between his brows when he focuses." Emily stood still. "Did you catch that in the brief moments you observed him?" "I observe every detail about him." Ethan responded with brevity. "He is absolutely ideal, Emily." Against her will, Emily sensed tears on the verge of spilling. "Indeed, he is. Sleep well, Ethan." She hurriedly turned away, feeling the weight of unspoken words pressing on her. The business card seared into her palm, a physical reminder of the man she had endeavored for 10 long years to erase from her memory. The man who had now resolved to integrate himself into their meticulously crafted existence. Upon returning to Mrs. Wilson's apartment, Emily discovered Lucas dozing on the couch, a science textbook resting open on his chest. As she delicately lifted the book, he began to awaken. "Mom," he murmured drowsily. "Have you completed your task?" Emily gently swept his dark hair away from his forehead. "Absolutely, darling. It's time to head back home." As they strolled the 3 blocks to their cozy apartment, Lucas suddenly inquired, "Mom, do you think coincidences really exist?" Emily's heart raced. "Could you clarify what you mean?" Mrs. Henderson discussed it in science class, explaining how what appears to be random often hides patterns that we have yet to uncover. He yawned broadly, as if the cosmos were orchestrating events in the background. Emily grasped his hand tightly, her mind racing with thoughts of Ethan's unexpected return after all this time. At times, life unfolds in unexpected ways that defy our imagination. Lucas nodded with a knowing expression. That's somewhat similar to what she mentioned as well. After settling Lucas into bed, Emily took a seat at their small kitchen table. Ethan's business card leaned casually against the salt shaker. The choice laid out before her felt insurmountable. Should we keep shielding Lucas from possible heartache, or allow him the opportunity to connect with his father, a man who has only just acknowledged his existence? Her phone vibrated with a message from the Yo. Yet another unfamiliar number. "No matter what you choose, I want you to understand that I am not the same individual who departed a decade ago. I aim to correct this situation." Emily closed her eyes, the way ahead still unclear, yet the initial steps had already been made. 3 days went by, and Ethan's business card remained on Emily's kitchen table, untouched yet impossible to overlook. She had been caught. She sat there, coffee in hand, gazing at it, weighing her options. "Earth to Mom," Lucas called out, waving his hand in front of her face as he settled down for breakfast. Once more, Emily blinked in disbelief. "What are you up to?" "Drifting away." "Since Tuesday, you've been acting strangely." Lucas meticulously poured cereal into his bowl. "Is it about finances again?" I suppose those new soccer cleats aren't really necessary for me. Emily let out a deep breath, her heart tightening. By the age of 10, Lucas had a keen awareness of financial constraints. It's not about the money, she assured him. Simply the realities of adulthood. Those cleats are an absolute necessity. Your toes are nearly bursting out of the worn-out ones. Lucas smiled, showcasing a dimple in his left cheek that was unmistakably Ethan. Awesome. Hi there. How about a trip to the Science Museum this Saturday? A new exhibit on renewable energy has been unveiled. Just as Emily was about to respond, her phone vibrated with a message from Marge. Your affluent admirer has returned. Once more, table 6. Inquired with you in mind. Emily felt a sudden jolt in her stomach. Lucas, please wrap it up, we need to head out early today. At the diner, Emily directed Lucas to the break room with his books before hesitantly making her way to table 6. Ethan lounged in his chair, exuding a relaxed vibe, dressed in a straightforward blue button-down, cradling a cup of coffee. This is harassment, she said quietly, standing at a measured distance. I expressed that I required some time. Ethan glanced upward, the shadows beneath his eyes hinting at countless restless nights. I understand that I'm not here to impose any pressure on you, I simply. He paused, uncertainty flickering in his mind. I long to see you once more. Ensure that your existence is genuine, not merely a figment of my imagination. The earnestness in his voice diminished her determination just a bit. Indeed, I exist. And creating. Several of. We simply cannot spend our entire mornings lounging in diners. Emily, he started, but his words trailed off as his gaze was drawn to something behind her. Emily glanced over to find Lucas peering from the break room, his face a canvas of curiosity. Could that be him? Ethan murmured, his face reflecting a blend of wonder and fear. Come back inside, Lucas, Emily said, making an effort to sound nonchalant. However, the moment had passed. Lucas, always a bit of a free spirit, moved forward with caution. Mom, I completed my math, he declared, casting a curious glance at Ethan. Could this be one of your clients? Emily sensed a trap closing in around her. Indeed, Lucas, this is Mr. Miller, he was just about to head out. Ethan reached out his hand, disregarding the sharp gaze from Emily. It's a pleasure to meet you, Lucas. Your mother has been looking after me quite well. Lucas extended his hand with the serious decorum of a young one taught to show respect to grown-ups. Have you just arrived in this place? I'm familiar with many of Mom's usual customers. After a significant absence, Ethan responded thoughtfully, observing Lucas's expression with a sense of barely hidden amazement. Lucas nodded with a knowing expression. The blueberry pancakes are a must-try, they're simply the finest in Kansas City. My mother insists on it, and she never embellishes when it comes to food. I will do that, Ethan vowed, his voice heavy with feeling. Emily gently rested her hand on Lucas's shoulder, offering a sense of reassurance. Please return to your homework, I'll join you shortly. Once Lucas had stepped back with some hesitation, Emily shifted her focus to Ethan. That was unjust. I still haven't come to a conclusion. Ethan offered an apology, yet his gaze remained locked on the break room door, hinting at a lack of true remorse. He's truly remarkable, Emily. Intelligent. Assured. Indeed, Emily concurred, and I will not allow anyone to harm him, not even his biological father. Ethan finally shifted his focus from the spot where Lucas had vanished. I would never purposefully cause him any pain. Deliberately being the key term, Emily responded. Your reliability has yet to be established. Ethan acknowledged this with a weary nod. I appreciate your concern, but I assure you, I'm here to stay. Emily, I will remain here. Identical setting, consistent hour. Each day until you feel prepared to share. Ethan kept his promise, showing up each morning for the following 5 days. He selected various items with each visit, left ample gratuities, and refrained from engaging with Lucas again, honoring Emily's limits while ensuring his presence was unmistakably felt. On the 6th day, he failed to arrive. Emily reassured herself that she felt a sense of relief, thinking that maybe he had moved on and gone back to his affluent lifestyle, along with all his corporate duties. Still, she couldn't help but keep her gaze fixed on the door, her heart heavy as the morning wore on without a hint of his arrival. "Your partner left you waiting?" Marge inquired during a pause, her eyebrows arched in understanding. "He's not my," Emily started instinctively, then let out a sigh. "It's intricate, darling. When a man gazes at a woman the way he gazes at you, it's quite straightforward," Marge responded. That expression reveals a man burdened by his past choices. Later that afternoon, as Emily and Lucas strolled home, they passed the community center, the gathering place for Lucas's science club. A modest group had assembled near the entrance. "What's happening?" Lucas pondered, balancing on his toes to catch a glimpse. As the crowd shifted, Emily's question found its answer, unveiling Ethan engaged in dialogue with Mr. Ramirez, the coordinator of the science club. In the middle of them rested a sizable box labeled solar engineering kits. "Mom, check this out," Lucas exclaimed. "Those are the kits that Mr. Ramirez mentioned were beyond the club's budget." Before Emily could intervene, Lucas surged ahead. "Mr. Ramirez, are those truly meant for us?" Ethan turned, a look of surprise crossing his face as he spotted Lucas, soon followed by Emily. His expression shifted to one of regret as their gazes locked. "Lucas," Mr. Ramirez smiled brightly. "Absolutely, without a doubt. Mr. Miller has kindly provided enough kits for the entire club. He expresses a keen interest in promoting science education." Lucas regarded Ethan with a fresh sense of admiration. "Did you really do this? That's incredibly fascinating. We've been longing for these endlessly." While Lucas scrutinized the kits alongside his peers, Ethan sauntered over to Emily, his hands buried deep in his pockets, reminiscent of a schoolboy caught in a moment of mischief. "This isn't how I intended to share this with you," he murmured softly. "I intended to make the call first." Emily folded her arms across her chest. "Is this your approach? Purchasing a place in his world?" Ethan grimaced. "That seems unjust. I came across a flyer indicating that the science club is in search of sponsors." Lucas spoke about his involvement in the science club. It felt appropriate. Before Emily had a chance to reply, Lucas sprang back to their side. "Mom, Mr. Miller is well versed in renewable energy. He will assist us with our projects." As she glanced between her son's eager expression and Ethan's tentative optimism, Emily understood that her meticulously built walls were starting to give way. "He's attempting to win Lucas's favor." Emily expressed her frustration while she vigorously cleaned the diner counter the following morning, employing the science club to assist her in the task. Marge, having endured Emily's grievances for the past 15 minutes, arched an eyebrow in response. "It seems to me that he is attempting to bond with his son over something the boy is passionate about," she noted, as she replenished the sugar dispensers. "Not precisely unlawful conduct." Emily cast her a glance filled with hurt and disbelief. "Which side do you support?" "Yours, darling. Without fail." "Yours," Marge said softly. "Yet, I've seen you nurture that boy by yourself for 7 years. You have played the roles of both mother and father in his life. Is it really such a bad thing for Lucas to have someone in his life who understands and shares his passions?" "But he's not just any man," Emily insisted. "It's Ethan, who has vanished before." Marge noted that, based on what you've shared, he didn't really vanish of his own accord. It appears that his mother played a significant role in that situation. Emily let out a soft breath, her frustration easing just a bit. The notion that Ethan might have been influenced just as she had was increasingly difficult to overlook. The bell above the door chimed, and Emily felt a rush of anticipation, bracing herself for Ethan's arrival. In his place, an elegantly attired older gentleman stepped inside, appearing somewhat incongruous in the modest diner. Marge declared, snatching a menu, while the man made his way straight to Emily. "Excuse me, Miss Parker. I am Thomas Wilson, the driver for Mr. Miller." He offered his hand, and with a hint of hesitation, Emily accepted the handshake. "He handed this to you as per my instructions." Emily slipped an envelope inside and then spoke in a softer tone. "With all due respect, Miss Parker, I have been in the service of the Miller family for more than 30 years. Your presence lingers in my memory from times past." Emily stood still. "Do you really?" Thomas gave a slight nod. "I took Master Ethan to meet you on several occasions that summer. Near the water's edge, predominantly. He certainly was. Changed when he was around you. More joyful." Emily took a deep breath. "What prompts you to share this with me?" "Upon his return from his father's funeral, Master Ethan requested that I take him to your apartment without delay. However, Mrs. Miller informed him that you had departed from the town. His expression spoke more than words ever could. I have devoted myself to the family with unwavering loyalty, yet certain matters linger heavily on my conscience." Once Thomas departed, Emily carefully peeled open the envelope, her fingers quivering with anticipation. Within lay a concise message from Ethan. "Emily, I'm giving you the space you need, but I wanted to inform you that I've stepped back from the Science Club sponsorship. Mr. Ramirez will take care of all the details. The children must not miss out on an opportunity due to our complex circumstances. Ethan." A copy of an email confirming his withdrawal was also included, clearly stating that the donation would remain anonymous. Emily gazed at the note, torn between her thoughts. It was a sign of honoring her limits, yet the contribution itself persisted. "He certainly isn't making this straightforward, is he?" Marge remarked, peering over her shoulder. "Negative." Emily nodded gently. "He is not." That evening, while Emily assisted Lucas with his homework, her phone chimed with a call from an unknown number. "Hello Emily, this is Denise Kelly, the science teacher for Lucas." The woman expressed regret. "I trust it's alright that I reached out. Mr. Ramirez shared your number with me." "Is he really? Is everything okay?" Emily inquired, her worry evident. "Indeed, I'm reaching out regarding the scholarship opportunity for the Summer Science Academy at State University." Emily's expression darkened. "Which scholarship are you referring to?" Denise clarified which one Lucas had applied for. His application stood out remarkably. In-depth analysis on potential modifications to enhance the efficiency of solar kits. The selection committee expressed great admiration. Emily cast a quick look at Lucas, who had become intensely absorbed in his textbook, a noticeable flush rising to his neck. "I understand," she replied thoughtfully. "When did Lucas submit this application?" "Yesterday." Mr. Miller assisted him with the technical details, yet the concepts were entirely Lucas's own. Once the call concluded, Emily folded her arms and directed a serious gaze at her son. "Lucas James Parker. Could you provide some clarification?" Lucas pressed his lip between his teeth. "I intended to share that with you." It all unfolded in the blink of an eye. "Mr. Miller assisted you in your scholarship application process. Without my consent?" "Absolutely not," Lucas objected. "Indeed, he mentioned that I should discuss it with you before proceeding. However, Mr. Ramirez mentioned that the deadline had passed yesterday, and Mr. Miller assisted me with the science section, and..." He faltered, caught off guard by Emily's expression. "Lucas, you simply cannot." "Mom, this is an excellent chance." He cut in, his gaze imploring. "It's the very program you always expressed a desire to send me to, if only it were within your budget. Mr. Miller mentioned that the scholarship would encompass all expenses. Even the cost of the bus ride." Emily sensed the walls closing in around her. The Summer Academy was a program she had always dreamed of enrolling Lucas in, yet it remained beyond her financial reach. What motivates Mr. Miller to offer you his assistance? She inquired, probing to gauge her son's comprehension of the circumstances. Lucas gave a slight shrug. He expresses that he recognizes the possibilities within me, and... He paused, uncertainty flickering in his eyes. He mentioned that I bring to mind his younger self. The seemingly harmless remark hit Emily with the force of a punch. Naturally, Lucas brought to mind memories of Ethan. He was a perfect replica in countless aspects. Once Lucas had drifted off to sleep, Emily retrieved her phone, pausing momentarily before she began to type. Is it the Science Academy? Is that so? Ethan replied without delay. He is truly exceptional, Emily. That intellect merits every chance. Her response was, you ought to. Should have consulted me initially. A moment of stillness follows. I appreciate your understanding, and I apologize. I felt a surge of enthusiasm for his concepts. Continuing to explore the limits. A subsequent text arrived swiftly. To clarify, I stepped back from the selection committee as soon as I became aware that Lucas was submitting an application. In spite of her reservations, Emily couldn't help but offer a faint smile at his effort to adhere to the rules while simultaneously assisting Lucas. Once more, her phone vibrated with a notification. He possesses your unwavering resolve. And your honesty. You've truly excelled with him, Emily. The quiet recognition of her years of sacrifice, something so seldom acknowledged, brought unexpected tears to her eyes. After a lengthy pause, she replied, Science Club meets every Thursday at 4 o'clock. If you truly want to make a difference, that would be a fitting place to begin. His response carried an unmistakable hint of suppressed enthusiasm. I will be present. Thanks, Emily. As she placed her phone on the table, Emily came to the unsettling realization that, despite her strongest efforts to keep him at bay, Ethan Miller was gradually weaving himself back into their lives. Ethan reached the community center half an hour ahead of schedule on Thursday, anxiously adjusting his casual button-down shirt. He had intentionally opted for a more casual look, leaving behind his typical designer watch and Italian leather shoes. He was determined to avoid making Lucas feel uneasy with any blatant signs of affluence. Within the space, he discovered Mr. Ramirez arranging the solar kits. Mr. Miller, I didn't anticipate your arrival at this hour. The instructor welcomed him with a friendly smile. I considered offering my assistance with. Ethan proposed, rolling up his sleeves. While they were engaged in their tasks, Ethan nonchalantly inquired, has Lucas always had a passion for science? Since he started here 3 years ago, Mr. Ramirez confirmed, that boy has a natural gift. Reminds me of myself at that age, except he's much smarter, he chuckled. Emily's done remarkably well with him, especially considering when the teacher didn't continue. Ethan prompted, noticing Mr. Ramirez looked uncomfortable. Well, the challenges of a single mom working multiple jobs, sometimes there was a rough patch when Lucas was younger, medical bills, I think. But Emily never let it affect his education, she's quite extraordinary. Ethan absorbed this information silently, adding it to the growing picture of the life Emily and Lucas had lived while he remained unaware of their existence. The children began arriving, Lucas among them. His face brightened when he saw Ethan. Mr. Miller, you really came. He hesitated, then asked, did Mom say it was okay? She did. Ethan assured him, touched by the boy's concern for boundaries. She texted me last night. For the next hour, Ethan helped the children experiment with their solar kits, particularly impressed by Lucas's intuitive understanding of the electrical components. He was so engrossed that he didn't notice Emily watching from the doorway until the session was ending. He's good, isn't he? She spoke softly while observing Lucas animatedly detailing his modifications to Mr. Ramirez. Beyond good, Ethan replied, noting, he thinks like an engineer. Emily's face softened a bit as she remarked, he gets that from you. This simple recognition of their bond with Lucas felt like a precious gift, which Ethan accepted with care, wary of overstepping. As they made their way to the parking lot, with Lucas darting ahead with his friends, Emily unexpectedly asked, "Would you like to grab coffee? There's a spot just around the corner at the little cafe." After Lucas was comfortably settled with his hot chocolate and homework at a nearby table, Emily got right to the point. "I've been doing some thinking," she started, "and some investigating." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "Investigating?" Emily pulled out her phone and showed him a series of photos. "These are from the community newspaper archives, 3 different charity events from 10 years ago. Look at the dates." Ethan examined the images. "Society photos showing his mother at various functions. These were all days when I came to see you," Emily explained. "Days when your mother personally told me you were unavailable or uninterested." Ethan's stomach clenched as he realized the implications. "She lied about being with me," Emily nodded. "Thomas mentioned you returned immediately after the funeral. I checked the dates. Your father died on September 4th. I didn't discover I was pregnant until September 18th. By then your number was already disconnected." My mother said the reminders were too painful, Ethan said slowly. "She had all my contacts transferred to a new phone, managed all my correspondence during that time. My favorite food in the world," Ethan replied with complete honesty. College memories of late-night pasta study sessions with Emily flooded back. Emily gave him a look that suggested she remembered too. "Lucas, wash up please." When Lucas disappeared into the bathroom, Emily asked quietly, "How did it go with your mother?" As anticipated, Ethan confessed that she had denied everything, attempted to justify her actions, and then threatened to sever ties with him. Emily flinched at the words. "I'm sorry," she murmured. "Don't be," Ethan replied with determination. During dinner, Ethan felt a sense of ease for the first time in days. Lucas took charge of the conversation, animatedly detailing his projects and inquiring about Ethan's work. Emily observed their exchange, her expression gradually softening. "Mom says you knew each other in college," Lucas interjected, glancing between them. "Were you friends?" Emily almost sputtered on her water as Ethan locked eyes with her, silently seeking her approval before he responded thoughtfully. "We were incredibly close, the best of friends, in fact." "So, why didn't you keep in touch?" Lucas asked with the direct curiosity of children. "Sometimes grown-ups lose track of each other," Emily intervened smoothly. "Life gets complicated." Lucas seemed to accept this. "Well, I'm glad you found Mom again. She needs more friends. She works too much." Ethan's heart ached at the simple observation. "I think you're right about that, Lucas." After dinner, as Lucas returned to his room to finish homework, Emily and Ethan stood awkwardly in the small kitchen. "Thank you for dinner," Ethan said softly, "and for letting me into your home." Emily nodded absently, wiping an already clean counter. "It means a lot to Lucas. He doesn't have many male role models." Emily, Ethan began hesitantly. "There's something I need to tell you. My mother, she's not going to make this easy for any of us." Emily's expression hardened slightly. "I never expected she would. We've handled her interference before. We can do it again." The "we" in her statement didn't escape Ethan's notice. For the first time, Emily seemed to be acknowledging them as a unit, not romantically perhaps, but united in their concern for Lucas. It was a beginning. The next 2 weeks established a tentative rhythm. Ethan attended Lucas's science club sessions, occasionally joined them for dinner, and began helping with weekend science museum trips, activities that had previously strained Emily's budget. Each interaction built a little more trust between them. One rainy Saturday afternoon, Ethan arrived at their apartment with a stack of books on renewable energy for Lucas and a folder of paperwork for Emily. "What's this?" she inquired as Lucas eagerly immersed himself in the DNA test results. Ethan responded softly, "Completely unnecessary, but I wanted everything official, proper documentation." Emily glanced at the paperwork. 99.99997% probability of paternity, precisely as they both anticipated. Then, looking at Ethan's face, she asked, "This is about legal recognition, isn't it?" Ethan nodded. "I've started the process to have Lucas legally recognized as my son, with your permission, of course, Mom." Lucas called from his room, unaware of the serious conversation. "This book has exactly what I need for my project. Can Mr. Miller stay and help me with it?" Emily hesitated only briefly. "Yes, if he has time." "All the time in the world," Ethan replied, his eyes still on Emily's face. Later, while Lucas was engrossed in his project, Emily and Ethan sat at the kitchen table with coffee. "Legal recognition would mean child support," Emily said carefully, "and potential custody arrangements." "I don't want to disrupt your lives," Ethan assured her, "but I do want to contribute to make things easier for both of you." He paused. "And I want Lucas to have my name if you agree." Emily's hands tightened around her mug. I've been a Parker his whole life. We've been a team. You'll always be his mother, Ethan said gently. Nothing changes that, but he should have access to everything that's rightfully his, including his heritage. Emily was quiet for a long moment. You've changed, she finally said. The Ethan I knew was impulsive, passionate. You're more deliberate now. 10 years in corporate America will do that to a person, Ethan replied with a wry smile. But I'm still me, Emily, just with better impulse control and more expensive suits. The Jensen deal is proceeding without issue. Ethan studied his mother, searching for signs of the woman who had once read him bedtime stories and encouraged his childhood experiments. Instead he saw only the carefully constructed facade of Vivian Miller, CEO matriarch. I have a son, he stated simply. Vivian's expression didn't change, but her hand trembled slightly as she reached for her teacup. Ridiculous. Where is this coming from? From Emily Parker, the woman whose letters you intercepted, whose calls you blocked, who came to our home at least 3 times looking for me. Ethan's voice remained controlled despite his simmering anger. The woman who was carrying my child when you turned her away. That girl was after your money, Vivian said dismissively. A classic trap. His name is Lucas, Ethan interrupted. He's 10 years old. Brilliant. Love science. Has my eyes and Emily's smile. He pulled out his phone, displaying a photo he'd taken at the science club. My son, mother, your grandson. Vivian barely glanced at the image. If this is truly your child, which I find questionable, without proper testing it changes nothing. You have responsibilities to the company, to our family name. It changes everything. Ethan corrected, his calm facade cracking. You deliberately kept me from knowing my own child. You lied to me about Emily leaving town. You manipulated both our lives for a decade. Vivian straightened, switching tactics. You were 22, Ethan. Your father had just died. The company was in transition. That girl and her pregnancy would have derailed everything we built, so you decided for me, Ethan said, the hurt evident beneath his anger. Without even giving me the chance to make my own choice, I protected you. Vivian insisted you weren't ready for fatherhood. That wasn't your decision to make. Ethan's raised voice caused nearby patrons to glance their way. He lowered it with effort. 10 years, mother. 10 years. I can never get back with my son. Vivian's expression hardened. And now what? You'll abandon the company your father built, throw away your education, your position for some waitress and her child for my family, Ethan corrected. And I'm not abandoning anything, I'm simply reordering my priorities. This infatuation will pass, Vivian said confidently. It did before. Ethan shook his head. It never passed. You just made sure I couldn't act on it. He stood, placing several bills on the table. I've scheduled a DNA test as a formality, but I don't need it to. No, Lucas is mine. I'm recognizing him publicly as my son, with or without your blessing. Vivian's composure finally cracked. You would shame our family name with this illegitimate. Choose your next words very carefully, mother, Ethan warned, his voice dangerously quiet. That's my son you're speaking about. Later that evening, as Ethan pulled into the modest apartment complex where Emily and Lucas lived, he was still shaking from the confrontation. His mother's parting words echoed in his mind. If you pursue this, you're on your own, Ethan. I won't have the Miller name associated with scandal. He found apartment 3B and knocked, wondering if Emily would sense the tension still radiating from him. The door opened to reveal Lucas grinning widely. Mr. Miller, mom's finishing dinner. Come see my room. It's where I keep all my projects. The simple enthusiasm in the boy's invitation momentarily banished Ethan's dark thoughts. He followed Lucas into a small but tidy bedroom decorated with solar system posters and bookshelves overflowing with science books. This is Mission Control, Lucas announced proudly, gesturing to a desk cluttered with circuit boards, notebooks, and a partially assembled wind turbine. I'm trying to design a turbine that works efficiently in low wind conditions. Ethan examined the design, genuinely impressed. You've created a multi-blade configuration to capture more energy. That's graduate level thinking, Lucas. The boy beamed at the praise. I've been working on it forever. Mom got me my first engineering kit when I was 7, even though we couldn't really afford it. A lump formed in Ethan's throat at this casual mention of their financial struggles he could have prevented had he known about Lucas. Hey, Emily appeared in the doorway wearing jeans and a simple blouse, her hair loose around her shoulders. Dinner's ready. Nothing fancy, just spaghetti, my favorite food in the world, Ethan replied with complete honesty. College memories of late-night pasta study sessions with Emily flooded back. Emily gave him a look that suggested she remembered too. Lucas, wash up please. When Lucas disappeared into the bathroom, Emily asked quietly, how did it go with your mother? About as expected, Ethan admitted. She denied everything, then tried to justify it, then threatened to disown me. Emily winced. I'm sorry, don't be, Ethan said firmly. I'm not. During dinner, Ethan found himself relaxing for the first time in days. Lucas dominated the conversation with enthusiastic explanations of his projects and questions about Ethan's work. Emily watched them interact, her expression softening gradually. Mom says you knew each other in college, Lucas said, suddenly looking between them. Were you friends? Emily nearly choked on her water. Ethan caught her eye, silently asking permission before answering carefully. We were very close friends, the best of Friends, actually, why didn't you stay in touch? Lucas asked with the direct curiosity of children. Sometimes grown-ups lose track of each other. Emily intervened smoothly. Life gets complicated. Lucas seemed to accept this. Well, I'm glad you found Mom again. She needs more friends. She works too much. Ethan's heart ached at the simple observation. I think you're right about that, Lucas. After dinner, as Lucas returned to his room to finish homework, Emily and Ethan stood awkwardly in the small kitchen. Thank you for dinner, Ethan said softly, and for letting me into your home. Emily nodded absently, wiping an already clean counter. It means a lot to Lucas. He doesn't have many male role models. Emily, Ethan began hesitantly. There's something I need to tell you. My mother, she's not going to make this easy for any of us. Emily's expression hardened slightly. I never expected she would. We've handled her interference before. We can do it again. The we in her statement didn't escape Ethan's notice for the first time. Emily seemed to be acknowledging them as a unit, not romantically perhaps, but united in their concern for Lucas. It was a beginning. The next 2 weeks established a tentative rhythm. Ethan attended Lucas's science club sessions, occasionally joined them for dinner, and began helping with weekend science museum trips, activities that had previously strained Emily's budget. Each interaction built a little more trust between them. One rainy Saturday afternoon, Ethan arrived at their apartment with a stack of books on renewable energy for Lucas and a folder of paperwork for Emily. What's this? She inquired as Lucas eagerly immersed himself in the DNA test results. Ethan responded softly, deeming it entirely unnecessary, yet he desired everything to be official, proper documentation. Emily cast her gaze at the paperwork, noting the 99.99997% probability of paternity, precisely as they both anticipated. Then, looking at Ethan's expression, she asked, "This is about legal recognition, isn't it?" Ethan nodded. "I've begun the process to have Lucas legally recognized as my son, with your permission, of course, Mom." Lucas called from his room, unaware of the serious conversation. "This book has exactly what I need for my project. Can Mr. Miller stay and help me with it?" Emily hesitated only briefly. "Yes, if he has time." "All the time in the world," Ethan replied, his eyes still on Emily's face. Later, while Lucas was engrossed in his project, Emily and Ethan sat at the kitchen table with coffee. "Legal recognition would mean child support," Emily said carefully, "and potential custody arrangements. I don't want to disrupt your lives," Ethan assured her, "but I do want to contribute to make things easier for both of you." He paused. "And I want Lucas to have my name if you agree." Emily's hands tightened around her mug. "I've been a Parker his whole life. We've been a team. You'll always be his mother," Ethan said gently. "Nothing changes that, but he should have access to everything that's rightfully his, including his heritage." Emily was quiet for a long moment. "You've changed," she finally said. "The Ethan I knew was impulsive, passionate. You're more deliberate now. 10 years in corporate America will do that to a person," Ethan replied with a wry smile. "But I'm still me, Emily, just with better impulse control and more expensive suits." This drew a genuine laugh from her, perhaps the first truly unguarded moment between them since their reunion. "Lucas has been asking about you," she admitted. "About why you're suddenly in our lives. He's too smart not to notice the similarities between you." "What have you told him?" "Nothing yet. I wanted to be sure." She trailed off. "Sure of what?" "Sure you were staying this time." The vulnerability in her voice struck him deeply. "I'm not going anywhere, Emily," he promised. "Not by choice, not ever again." Their eyes held for a moment, two long old feelings stirring beneath the surface of their careful co-parenting arrangement. Emily broke the contact first, standing to refill her coffee. "I think it's time we tell him," she said decisively. Together the moment came sooner than either expected as Ethan helped Lucas adjust the blade angles on his wind turbine model. The boy suddenly asked, "Are you my dad?" The question, delivered with such straightforward curiosity, momentarily stunned both adults. Emily froze by the doorway where she'd been watching them. "What makes you ask that?" Ethan managed, looking to Emily for guidance. Lucas shrugged with practiced casualness that didn't disguise his intensity. "We look alike. You have the same crease between your eyebrows when you're concentrating, and you keep looking at Mom the way Mr. Wilson looks at Mrs. Wilson, like you used to be in love." Emily moved to sit beside Lucas on his bed. "You're right, Lucas. Mr. Miller is your father." Lucas absorbed this confirmation with remarkable composure. "I kind of figured. Why didn't you tell me before?" "It's complicated," Emily began, but Lucas interrupted. "Because you were mad at him for leaving." "But he didn't know about me, did he?" Ethan found his voice. "No, Lucas, I didn't. If I had known about you, I would have been here. Nothing would have kept me away." Lucas considered this, and so it was all a big misunderstanding. "Like in those movies Mom watches sometimes." Emily smiled despite herself. "Something like that." "Can I call you Dad?" Lucas asked Ethan directly, his expression cautiously hopeful. Ethan felt his heart constrict. "I would like that very much, but only if you're comfortable with it." Lucas nodded thoughtfully. "I've been practicing in my head actually since last week when I figured it out." Emily looked surprised. "You've known for a week and didn't say anything?" "I was collecting data," Lucas replied seriously, "making observations That's the scientific method. Ethan couldn't help the laugh. That escaped him, part joy, part overwhelming emotion. You really are my son. A phone chimed and Emily checked her messages. Her expression immediately clouded. What is it? Ethan asked Mrs. Winters. Emily replied, naming their apartment manager. There was a woman asking questions about us today. Expensively dressed, around 60, said she was conducting a background check for a scholarship Lucas applied for. Ethan's jaw tightened. My mother. That's your grandma? Lucas asked, eyes widening. Technically yes, Ethan confirmed, though she's not acting very grandmotherly right now. What does she want? Lucas persisted. Ethan chose his words carefully. She's having trouble accepting changes in our family, but that's for me to handle, not you. Later, as Ethan prepared to leave, Emily walked him to the door. Rain still pattered against the windows, creating a cozy intimacy in the small apartment. I should have asked you first, Emily said quietly before confirming to Lucas. It just felt like the right moment. It was perfect. Ethan assured her. You know him best. Emily brushed a hand across her eyes, blinking rapidly. It's strange. I've imagined this conversation for 10 years, rehearsed what I'd say, how I'd explain your absence, and now I'm realizing how many stories we'll have to rewrite for Lucas, for ourselves. Ethan nodded, understanding precisely what she meant. The narratives they'd constructed to explain the past decade were crumbling, requiring new truths to replace them. Dad, Lucas called from his room, the title still new and wonderful on his tongue. When can we go to where you work? I want to see the tech lab. Mom said you have soon, Ethan promised, unable to keep the emotion from his voice. Very soon. As he stepped into the rain-soaked evening, Ethan felt simultaneously lighter and more grounded than he had in years. The word dad echoed in his mind, a title more precious than CEO could ever be. The Miller Technologies headquarters dominated the Kansas City skyline, 30 floors of gleaming glass and steel testifying to the family's success. Ethan led Emily and Lucas through the lobby, acutely aware of curious glances from employees unaccustomed to seeing their CEO with a woman and child. This place is awesome, Lucas whispered, eyes wide as he took in the cutting-edge architecture and technology displays. Wait until you see the R&D lab, Ethan replied, guiding them toward a private elevator. As they rode up, Emily seemed increasingly uncomfortable. Everyone's staring. Let them, Ethan said simply. They'll know the truth soon enough. The research and development floor buzzed with activity. Engineers testing prototypes, developers huddled over computers, whiteboards covered with equations and designs. Activity paused momentarily as Ethan entered with his guests. Everyone, I'd like you to meet Lucas and Emily Parker. Ethan announced they'll be visiting our facilities today. Lucas immediately gravitated toward a demonstration of miniature wind turbines remarkably similar to his own designs. A young engineer began explaining the technology, clearly delighted by the boy's insightful questions. He fits right in, Emily observed, watching Lucas engage confidently with the staff. Miller blood, Ethan said with quiet pride. This building exists because of my father's vision, but these innovations, sustainable energy solutions, those were my dreams in college, dreams I shared with you. Emily nodded, remembering you wanted to create technologies that would help people, not just profits. I still do, Ethan replied. It just got complicated after my father died. While Lucas was thoroughly occupied with the engineering team, Ethan led Emily to his office on the top floor. The space was impressive but surprisingly modest for a CEO of his stature. This was my father's, he explained, gesturing to an antique desk by the window, the only piece of furniture I kept when I renovated the office. Emily approached it, running her fingers along the polished wood. Samuel Miller. I never met him. He would have liked you, Ethan said with certainty. He valued authenticity above all else. Her attention was drawn to a small wooden box on the desk. What's this? Ethan hesitated, recalling something he had found yesterday in his mother's study at the estate. He opened the box, revealing a stack of unopened envelopes. Letters from you. Emily's breath caught as she recognized her own handwriting. She had kept them, all of them. Ethan confirmed grimly, never opened but preserved like evidence. Emily picked up the top envelope with trembling fingers, the postmark dated 10 years earlier, her first attempt to reach Ethan after discovering her pregnancy. I don't understand, she whispered, why keep letters she never intended to deliver? Control, Ethan replied, his voice hardening. My mother has built her life around controlling the Miller narrative. These were insurance proof. She had protected me if I ever discovered the truth. Emily set the letter down, disturbed. Your mother is a formidable woman. She's manipulative and calculating, Ethan corrected, and she's not finished yet. Before Emily could respond, Ethan's assistant appeared at the door. Mr. Miller, your mother is here. She's quite insistent on seeing you immediately. Ethan straightened, jaw tight. Perfect timing. Please show Mrs. Miller in. Emily moved to leave. I should get Lucas. Stay, Ethan requested, his hand lightly touching her arm. Please, it's time we faced her together. Vivian Miller entered like a commanding general, elegant in a tailored suit that probably cost more than Emily's monthly rent. She faltered momentarily upon seeing Emily, her practiced smile freezing in place. I wasn't aware you had company. "Ethan," she said coolly. "Mother, you remember Emily Parker?" "Ethan," replied, his tone deliberately casual. Vivian's gaze raked over Emily dismissively. "Vaguely, Miss Parker, isn't it? Or is there a husband somewhere?" "It's Miss Parker," Emily replied evenly. "And no, I've been raising my son alone." "Our son," she corrected, glancing at Ethan. "Ah yes, the child," Vivian said. "That's actually why I'm here." "Ethan, the board is concerned about these sudden family revelations. The timing with the Jensen merger proceeding is particularly unfortunate." "The timing has nothing to do with business," Ethan countered, "and everything to do with rectifying a decade-long injustice." Vivian sighed dramatically. "Always so melodramatic." "I've scheduled a private meeting with the board tomorrow to discuss the situation. Your presence is required." "I'll be there," Ethan agreed, with documentation officially recognizing Lucas as my son and heir. Vivian's composure slipped momentarily. "Heir? Don't be absurd. The boy isn't even a Miller." "He will be," Ethan replied firmly. "I've already started the legal process." "Perhaps we should discuss this privately," Vivian suggested with a pointed look at Emily. "Anything you have to say can be said in front of Emily," Ethan insisted. "In fact, I think it's time we all acknowledge the truth." He picked up the box of letters. "Starting with these." Vivian stiffened at the sight of the box. "You were in my study. I was looking for answers," Ethan confirmed, "and I found them. Years of intercepted communications, proof that Emily tried repeatedly to tell me about my son. I did what was necessary," Vivian stated, unapologetic. "You were grieving, vulnerable. This woman would have derailed your entire future with her inconvenient pregnancy." Emily flinched at the callous description of her pregnancy with Lucas but held her ground. "You had no right to make that decision for either of us." "I had every right," Vivian snapped, her careful facade cracking. "The Miller legacy was at stake. Ethan was destined for greater things than playing house with a scholarship girl from nowhere." The cruelty of the statement hung in the air. Ethan moved to stand beside Emily, his posture protective. "You're wrong, Mother. The greatest thing I could have done was be a father to my son, and you robbed me of that. For 10 years I protected you." Vivian insisted. "You controlled me," Ethan corrected. "But that ends now." The standoff was interrupted by Lucas bounding into the office, followed by an apologetic assistant. "Dad, the engineer said my turbine design might actually work better than theirs for microgeneration in urban environments." He stopped abruptly, sensing the tension. "Oh, sorry, I didn't know you had a meeting." Vivian stared at the boy, seeing the unmistakable Miller features for the first time in person. For a brief moment something almost like regret crossed her face. "Lucas," Ethan said carefully, "this is my mother, Vivian Miller, your grandmother." Lucas studied the elegant woman with open curiosity. "Hello, Mrs. Miller. It's nice to meet you." Vivian seemed momentarily at a loss, a rare occurrence for the formidable businesswoman. Before she could respond, her phone chimed with a text message. She checked it, her expression darkening. "We'll continue this discussion at the board meeting," she told Ethan coldly. "The situation is more complicated than you realize." With a final dismissive glance at Emily and Lucas, she swept from the office. "Is she always that scary?" Lucas asked after she'd gone. Despite the tension, Emily couldn't help but laugh. "Pretty much." Ethan knelt to Lucas's level. "Don't worry about my mother. What's important is that we're together now." He glanced up at Emily, including her in his next words, "and no one is going to separate us again." The Miller Technologies boardroom epitomized corporate power. 20 seats of supple leather surrounding a gleaming mahogany table, floor-to-ceiling windows offering panoramic city views. Ethan had spent countless hours here negotiating deals and charting company strategy, but today felt different. Today was personal. His mother had arrived early, speaking quietly with several board members. Their expressions suggested the conversation wasn't casual. When Ethan entered, conversations halted abruptly. Ethan, Gerald Jensen, his father's oldest friend and senior board member, greeted him. "Quite the situation you found yourself in." "Not a situation, Gerald. A son." Ethan placed his briefcase on the table. "My son." Vivian took her seat, immaculately composed. "We've been discussing the implications of your recent revelations. The board has concerns about timing and authenticity." "Authenticity," Ethan repeated sharply. "There are questions," Jensen interjected, "about whether this boy is truly your son or if this might be an opportunistic claim." Ethan felt his temper rising but kept his voice level. "I've provided DNA confirmation. Lucas is unquestionably my son." "DNA can be manipulated," Richard Porter, another board member, suggested, "and the timing right before the Jensen merger announcement seems calculated." "By whom?" Ethan insisted that he stumbled upon Lucas by chance. Emily Parker had never sought money or recognition, yet Vivian pointed out that her situation was modest, and the allure of the Miller fortune would undoubtedly be tempting. Ethan slammed his hand on the table, his carefully maintained composure beginning to crack. "Emily had raised my son alone for 10 years because he pointed directly at his mother, deliberately kept us apart. She had never asked for anything." "Your emotional involvement is concerning," Jensen remarked, noting that the company needed clear-headed leadership, especially now. Then perhaps it's best if you temporarily step back from day-to-day operations, Vivian suggested smoothly, until this matter is resolved. Ethan stared at his mother in disbelief. You're trying to push me out. Not out, she corrected, just sidelined until we determine the best approach to this potential scandal. There is no scandal, Ethan insisted, only a father recognizing his son. The conference room phone rang, interrupting the tense exchange. Ethan's assistant's voice came through the speaker. Mr. Miller, there's an urgent situation requiring your attention. It's regarding Ms. Parker and Lucas. Ethan's blood ran cold. What's happened? Reporters, sir, at least a dozen. They've surrounded Ms. Parker's apartment building. Someone leaked the story to the press. Ethan looked directly at his mother, whose expression remained impassive but whose eyes held a calculating gleam. I need to go, he announced, gathering his materials. The meeting isn't finished, Vivian objected. Yes, it is. Ethan paused at the door. And so is your interference in my life. You've manipulated your last Miller. Mother. As he rushed from the building, Ethan's phone filled with notifications, news alerts about the Miller Technologies air scandal already trending across social media. The family war had gone public by the time Ethan reached Emily's apartment complex. The media circus was in full swing. News vans lined the street, reporters with microphones clustered at the entrance. Security guards attempted to maintain order while residents complained about the disruption using the building's back entrance. Ethan finally made it to apartment 3B. The scene inside broke his heart. Lucas huddled on the couch, Emily frantically packing a suitcase. They've been calling non-stop, she explained, her face pale with tension. Someone gave them my personal number. They're even contacting Lucas's school. This ends now, Ethan promised, pulling out his phone to call his security team. Lucas looked up with wounded eyes. A reporter showed up at science club. She asked if I was excited about being a real Miller. Now the other kids were staring at me. Ethan sat beside his son, putting an arm around his thin shoulders. I'm so sorry, Lucas, this isn't what I wanted. Is this what it's always like to be rich and famous? Lucas spoke softly, but Ethan reassured him that this was the consequence of people wielding money and power to harm others, though it wouldn't endure. Emily halted her packing, her face a mask of distress. This is precisely what I feared. We're being treated like a scandal, our lives reduced to tabloid gossip. A text alert chimed on Emily's phone. She glanced at it and silently passed it to Ethan. It was a link to an online article, Gold Digger Mom hid Miller heir for decade, sources say. The source was extensively quoted about Emily's alleged schemes to siphon money from the Miller estate. My mother, Ethan muttered, recognizing Vivian's calculated wording in the quotes. It doesn't matter, Emily replied, her voice empty. What matters is that Lucas is suffering. This was a mistake, Ethan. All of it. Don't say that, Ethan urged. We can fix this. How? Emily challenged, gesturing to the chaos outside. Your mother controls the narrative, the company, the media. We're outmatched. Where are you going? Ethan asked, noticing the suitcases. My sister's in Oklahoma, just until things calm down. The realization that they were running, that his mother was effectively driving them away again, filled Ethan with cold fury. Please don't go, he said softly. Not again, not like this, Dad. Lucas's voice was barely a whisper. I don't want to leave. I have the science competition next week. Emily sank into a chair, the fight draining from her. I don't know what's best anymore. I thought I was protecting him all these years, but now. Ethan knelt before her, taking her hands in his. Let me fix this. I know how to handle my mother, the media, all of it. Can you? Emily asked, doubt heavy in her voice. They're already painting me as a gold digger, Lucas as an illegitimate complication, you as an irresponsible playboy. The damage is done only if we let it be, Ethan insisted. Trust me, Emily. One last time. A knock at the door startled them all. Through the peephole they saw Thomas, Ethan's driver, looking distressed. Mr. Miller, Thomas said when they opened the door, the board has called an emergency meeting there, voting on your temporary removal as CEO. Emily and Ethan Exchanged glances. His determined, hers resigned. Looks like your mother is winning, Emily said quietly. No, Ethan replied with newfound resolve. She's just shown me exactly what I need to do. He pulled out his phone, scrolling through contacts. It's time to change the narrative. For the first time in days a spark of hope flickered in Emily's eyes. The Grand Plaza Hotel's conference room buzzed with anticipation as journalists from every major news outlet in Kansas City assembled, drawn by the cryptic press advisory from Miller Technologies' major announcement regarding company leadership and future direction at precisely 10 a.m. Ethan entered the room dressed impeccably in a tailored suit. The crowd expected him to be alone. Instead, Emily and Lucas walked beside him. The flashes of cameras intensified as they took their places at the podium. Thank you all for coming, Ethan began, his voice steady and confident. I've called this press conference to address the speculation surrounding my family and to clarify my position with Miller Technologies. He gestured to Emily and Lucas. This is Emily Parker and her son Lucas, my son 10 years ago through circumstances beyond either of our control. Emily and I were separated. I never knew she was pregnant. I never knew I had a son. The room grew silent as journalists sensed the raw emotion beneath his professional demeanor. 2 weeks ago, by what some might call fate, I discovered Lucas's existence. Since then I've been working to establish a relationship with my son and to make amends for my unwilling absence in his life. Ethan paused, his gaze sweeping the room. Unfortunately, certain parties have attempted to twist this family reunion into something tawdry and scandalous. Let me be absolutely clear. Emily Parker never hid my son from me. She tried repeatedly to contact me when she discovered her pregnancy. Those attempts were deliberately intercepted. The reporters leaned forward, sensing the bombshell about to drop. I have evidence that communications between Emily and myself were systematically blocked. Letters were intercepted, visits denied, all to prevent me from learning about my son. Ethan's voice hardened. This was not only a personal betrayal but potentially corporate malfeasance, as it involved misuse of company resources. A murmur swept through the crowd as journalists furiously took notes. As of this morning, I have voluntarily stepped down as CEO of Miller Technologies while an independent investigation proceeds. This is not an admission of wrongdoing on my part, but rather a commitment to transparency and accountability. Ethan placed a hand on Lucas's shoulder. My priority now is my family. I am officially and publicly acknowledging Lucas Parker as my son and heir. I am establishing a trust for his education and future, and I am filing for joint custody with Emily's blessing. He looked at Emily, who nodded her confirmation, her expression a mixture of amazement and cautious hope. I will not allow my family to be used as pawns in a corporate power struggle, nor will I permit my son's reputation to be tarnished by manufactured scandal. Ethan's voice rang with conviction. The Miller name stands for integrity. At least it will while I have any say in the matter. As questions erupted from the journalists, Lucas tugged at Ethan's sleeve. Ethan bent down and the boy whispered something in his ear. Smiling, Ethan adjusted the microphone. My son would like to say something. Lucas stepped forward, nervous but determined. I just want everyone to know that I'm proud to be dad's son, and mom has been the best mom ever. That's all. The simple statement, delivered with a child's unvarnished honesty, accomplished what no carefully crafted press release could have. In that moment, the Miller scandal transformed into a human story of family reunion and redemption. Outside, watching the press conference on a monitor in her car, Vivian Miller's perfectly manicured nails dug into her palms as she realized her son had outmaneuvered her at last. The fallout from the press conference was swift and far-reaching. Public opinion, initially manipulated against Emily, swung dramatically in her favor as the story of the separated lovers and their reunited family captured the public's imagination. Social media erupted with supportive hashtags, and even Miller Technologies stock recovered after an initial dip as consumers responded positively to Ethan's display of integrity in Emily's modest apartment, now mercifully free of lurking reporters. Ethan spread blueprints across the kitchen table. It's not too big, he assured her, noting her overwhelmed expression. Just 4 bedrooms, an open floor plan, and yes, a dedicated lab space for Lucas. Emily studied the plans for the house. Ethan had purchased a comfortable home in a good school district midway between her workplace and Miller Technologies. It's beautiful, she admitted, but Ethan, we can't accept this. It's too much. It's not a gift, Ethan clarified. It's Lucas's home too. I want him to have stability, space for his projects, a yard. He hesitated. The guest house in back would be yours, your own space, completely separate, if that's what you want. Emily's eyes widened. You'd live in the main house. You're serious about this co-parenting arrangement? Completely serious, Ethan confirmed. I've missed 10 years, Emily. I don't want to miss a single day more. Lucas burst in from his bedroom waving a tablet. Dad, the Science Academy emailed. I got in for real this time. Not because of you, no. Ethan high-fived his son. There Matching smiles making Emily's heart twist with emotions she wasn't ready to name. Did you see the part about the presentation? Lucas continued excitedly. Each student presents their research to the whole academy. You'll be amazing, Emily assured him, ruffling his hair. Later, after Lucas had gone to bed, Emily and Ethan sat on her small balcony, the night air warm around them. The board meeting is tomorrow, Ethan said quietly. The independent investigator's report will be presented. Are you worried? Emily inquired, but Ethan responded, the evidence against my mother is substantial: letters, security logs, witness statements from staff. He smiled grimly. She was thorough in her deception, I'll give her that. Emily studied his profile in the dim light. What will happen to her? Removal from the board may lead to potential legal consequences, though I'm not advocating for that. Ethan sighed, acknowledging, she's still my mother despite everything. What about you? Emily inquired gently, will you return as CEO? Ethan turned to face her. Do you think I should? The question took Emily by surprise. It's not my place to say it is, Ethan insisted. You're Lucas's mother. We're building a life together, not romantically perhaps, but as a family. Your opinion matters to me, Emily. It always has. The sincerity in his voice transported her back to college days when this man had valued her insights above all others before life and manipulation tore them apart. I think, she said carefully, that you should do what makes you happy, Lucas, and I will support you either way. Ethan reached across the space between them, his hand covering hers. The touch was gentle, undemanding, yet electric with possibility. 10 years ago, he said softly, all I wanted was a life with you, a chance to build something meaningful together. His eyes held hers. Some dreams don't die, Emily, they just wait for the right moment to be reborn. As city lights twinkled below them, Emily didn't pull her hand away, a small gesture that felt like the first step on a new path neither had anticipated, but both were increasingly willing to explore. The morning sun filtered through the stained glass of St. Mary's Cathedral, casting jeweled patterns across the marble floor. Emily sat in the back pew watching as Ethan knelt at his father's memorial plaque in the small chapel dedicated to prominent Kansas City families. Thank you for coming, Ethan said when he returned to her side. I needed to visit him before the board meeting. What would he have thought about all this? Emily asked, gesturing vaguely to encompass their complicated situation. He would have adored Lucas, Ethan replied without hesitation, and he would have been furious with my mother. He checked his watch. It's time. The cathedral's peaceful atmosphere felt worlds away from the tension filling the Miller Technologies boardroom. Vivian sat at one end of the table, her usual impeccable appearance slightly diminished by dark circles under her eyes. The other board members maintained a careful distance from her, the investigation's preliminary findings having already circulated among them. Emily felt out of place in her simple dress as she took a seat at the back of the room, but Ethan had insisted on her presence. This concerns your life too, he'd said. You deserve to hear the truth, acknowledged the independent investigator. A former federal prosecutor presented his findings, methodically documenting years of intercepted communications, falsified reports, and systematic deception orchestrated by Vivian Miller. In conclusion, he stated there is compelling evidence that Mrs. Miller deliberately prevented contact between Mr. Ethan Miller and Ms. Parker, including concealing the existence of their child. These actions potentially constitute several civil infractions, including breach of fiduciary duty to the company. When the presentation concluded, Gerald Jensen addressed Vivian directly. Do you wish to respond to these findings, Vivian? She rose with poise, surveying the room. I acted to protect this company and my son's future. History will vindicate my decisions. Her gaze settled on Emily. This woman and her child would have destroyed everything Samuel built. That wasn't your decision to make, Ethan replied quietly. Someone had to make it, Vivian countered. You were too blinded by infatuation to see what was at stake. What was at stake? Ethan said, his voice gaining strength. Was my son, my family, my chance at happiness. Happiness? Vivian scoffed. Your father built this company through sacrifice, not by chasing happiness with the first pretty scholarship girl who caught his eye. Emily flinched, but Ethan remained calm. Dad built this company for our family, mother, not as a replacement for it. The board voted swiftly. Vivian would be removed from all operational roles, though she would retain her shares as Samuel Miller's widow. Ethan would be reinstated as CEO with quarterly oversight from the board for the next year. As the meeting Adjourned. Vivian approached Emily, ignoring the others filing out of the room. "He'll resent you eventually," she said softly, her voice carrying the absolute certainty of someone who believed their own prophecies. "When the novelty wears off, when the responsibilities of parenthood interfere with his ambitions." Before Emily could respond, a small voice came from the doorway. "You're wrong." Lucas stood there, Thomas the driver beside him, having brought the boy. At Ethan's request, families are supposed to make each other stronger. Lucas continued, approaching his grandmother without fear. "That's what Mom always says, and now I have Dad too, so we're even stronger." Vivian stared at her grandson, this child with unmistakable Miller determination in his eyes, and for the first time something in her rigid posture softened. "You look like your grandfather," she said finally, an acknowledgement that felt like the closest thing to acceptance she could offer. 1 year later, the backyard of the Miller-Parker home bustled with activity as guests gathered to celebrate Lucas's 11th birthday. Children darted between tables decorated with science-themed centerpieces while adults mingled over drinks and appetizers. Emily surveyed the scene from the kitchen window, still occasionally marveling at how much had changed the house. Neither mansion nor modest apartment, but something comfortably in between, had become a true home over the past year. Her separate guest house, initially a buffer meant to maintain independence, now served primarily as her home office and art studio. She gradually migrated into the main house, a transition so natural that neither she nor Ethan had formally acknowledged it. "Need help with the cake?" Ethan appeared beside her, sleeves rolled up, as Emily nodded toward the refrigerator. Lucas had insisted on a model of a hydrogen fuel cell this year. "Of course he did." Ethan laughed, saying nothing says happy birthday like renewable energy technology. As they worked side by side, Emily found herself studying Ethan's profile. The corporate polish was still there, but a year of fatherhood had softened his edges. He laughed more easily now, prioritized family dinners over late meetings, and had reorganized Miller Technologies' leadership structure to allow him more time at home. "Penny, for your thoughts?" he asked, catching her gaze. "Just thinking about how far we've come," Emily replied honestly. "A year ago we were strangers reconnecting in a diner." "Not strangers," Ethan corrected softly. "Never." That just interrupted. Outside, a sleek black car pulled into the driveway. Vivian Miller emerged, elegant as always but noticeably less severe than she had been a year ago. "She came," Emily observed, surprised despite the invitation they'd extended. Ethan nodded. "Third time's the charm." Lucas will be pleased. Their relationship with Vivian remained complicated. Removed from her operational role at Miller Technologies, she'd retreated to the family estate, declining most invitations to see Lucas, but gradually, almost reluctantly, she'd begun to acknowledge her grandson, first with impersonal gifts, later with cautious interest in his academic achievements. Lucas spotted his grandmother and raced across the lawn to greet her from a distance. Emily and Ethan watched as he excitedly showed her something on his tablet, likely his latest science project, and Vivian's usually rigid posture relaxed slightly as she listened. "He has Samuel's gift for disarming even the most formidable opponents," Ethan said with quiet pride. The party progressed with birthday traditions, presents games, and finally the unveiling of the hydrogen fuel cell cake, which Lucas declared scientifically accurate and aesthetically pleasing to everyone's amusement. As evening approached and guests began to depart, Vivian surprised everyone by handing Lucas a small, carefully wrapped package. "This belonged to your grandfather," she said, her voice holding unusual warmth. "He would have wanted you to have it." Inside was a vintage pocket watch inscribed with the Miller family crest. Lucas handled it with reverence, understanding its significance beyond its monetary value. "Thank you, grandmother," he said, formally using the title she preferred. Vivian nodded, then added something none of them expected. "Perhaps next weekend you might visit the estate. Your grandfather's workshop is still intact. You might find educational." After Vivian departed and Lucas raced off to examine his gifts with his friends, Emily and Ethan found themselves alone on the patio watching the sunset paint the sky in brilliant oranges and pinks. "Did you ever imagine this?" Emily gestured to their home, a reflection of the party and their reconfigured family. "When you walked into that diner a year ago?" Ethan admitted, "Not specifically, but I always hoped for a second chance with you. Even when I didn't know what was missing, I felt your absence." He reached for her hand, a gesture that had become familiar and comforting over the past year. They had carefully rebuilt their relationship, first as co-parents focused on Lucas's well-being, then as tentative friends rediscovering shared interests, and finally, in recent months, as something more. "Lucas asked me something interesting this morning," Ethan said, his thumb tracing circles on her palm. "He wanted to know if we would ever get married." Emily's breath caught. "What did you tell him?" As Ethan replied, his gaze locked onto hers with the same fervor that had stolen her heart at 20, he acknowledged that some narratives take unforeseen turns yet ultimately arrive at their destined conclusion. The final beams of sunlight bathed the garden where their son played joyfully with his friends. Emily nestled into Ethan's embrace, free from the shadows of the past and the doubts of the future, fully immersed in the family they had, against all odds, managed to rebuild.